Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's garden video. I didn't end up recording everything I did this week because I had some family in town, but this is the outcome of something I did. And you guys have seen it in previous videos where I'd planted some beets and they had not grown, they had been eaten down, and so I thought if I put a little collar around them once I plant them, maybe that'll protect them. So I went in, I cut up a bunch of PVC pipe, put some collars around them as I planted them in the ground, and it seems to be working. Whatever was getting them isn't getting them now, so I'm excited about that. And then because family was in town, I had taken a couple days off of harvesting and just kind of let everything grow. And I thought I'll get back to it when they leave, which is what I did. And so here you see me harvesting. Right now I'm harvesting some cucumbers and some beans, but I'd also harvest some zucchini, which is there on the left-hand side of the screen. It never ceases to amaze me how fast things grow. It's kind of shocking. You go away for a couple days and just everything fills in. So you'll see it in a little bit how much I got this one day, but it's just kind of shocking. I also ended up pulling out some leftover beets that I had. This is things that I planted, in the spring, and I just let them grow because they were in the shadow of that big beet that's going to seed, and so they took a lot longer to get to full size. But I did harvest those, and then of course I like to feed the greens to our animals, so here's a little shot of me feeding the beet greens to Elliot. And Ava wanted some as well. But here's a look at what I got from the day. This is my zucchini and beans. Like I said, I harvested the rest of my beets that were in the ground from the spring. And look at that load of cucumbers. It's just crazy to me. I'm happy about it, but tons of food. The next day I went out and I harvested some potatoes. For me, I know that potatoes are ready when the greens up top naturally kind of start dying back and then they just kind of lay on the ground. So what I end up doing is I actually leave my potatoes in the ground until the fall. If it starts getting wet all the time, I'll harvest them, but as long as it's dry, I leave them in the ground. And here you see me just out there harvesting a bunch of potatoes. Here was the haul. Typically I don't rinse them off because I don't like getting them wet. I just kind of dry them off. And this is only, I think, 2 potato plants or 4 potato plants that I planted. So I got a ton more in the ground, which always gets me excited for how much I get out of that. I did also harvest a bunch of broccoli. I had done some rejuvenation cutting on it. I mean, the broccoli looks horrible and I thought it was like dead to the world, but I chopped it back and I ended up getting a bunch off of it. Some of it I cleaned up and fed to the animals, and some of it I brought in to eat. And this is one of my tomato plants that happens to be producing these nice sized tomatoes. So as they become ripe, I go in there and I pick them out. But every other tomato plant is still just ripening fruit on the vine. Now with all those cucumbers that I had earlier, I decided I needed to do something with them, so I decided to pickle them. So you see my pickling brine there and my cucumbers. And at the end of the day, this is what I ended up with. I pickled a bunch of cucumbers. I actually tried pickling zucchini, which I know sounds weird. I don't even know if it's going to work, but on the right-hand side, you see some pickled zucchini, and we'll see how it goes. Also, in looking at my garden, when onions grow up and then they flop over, they're ready to harvest. So I went out and they've been ready to harvest, and I've just been leaving them in the ground, just kind of ignoring them. I really love plants that just can hold in the ground, like potatoes and onions and stuff. So I've been leaving them there, but I did decide to go pull a bunch of them out, still leave a bunch in the ground. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cure some of these. So I'm just leaving them in my greenhouse for a while, and they'll just slowly dry out. While in the greenhouse, I also noticed that I did have a couple starts left over that I haven't gotten in the ground yet, and I changed those out and repotted them a little bit. And an experiment, what I'm doing is I'm pulling some of my beet seeds off. I'm cutting them off while they're green. I'm letting them dry to the state here, is what they look like. And then I'm planting them in the ground to see if they grow. So I took some of the seeds that I've dried out, and I'm planting them in the ground. I'm doing a direct sow method. I'm covering them up, I'm marking them, and it's an experiment, and I'm gonna water them in. And if they grow, I'll know that I can actually harvest that whole giant beet that's gone to seed, and that will just make me very happy. As I continue to walk through the garden day after day, I notice when things are ripe, and this tomato actually was hiding kind of way in there, and so I noticed it was ripe, so I went ahead and plucked it, and it's actually a different variety than the smaller variety, as you can see there. And then my cherry tomatoes, I saw one that was on the vine, and sometimes the early ones are really sour, and I don't like trying them, but I tried that one, and it was actually really good, nice and sweet. I debated spending time doing this year because every year I start planting tomatoes and I think, oh, I'll keep them under control because they grow like crazy. They have at every leaf node they send out another shoot, and it kind of gets out of control. And I have in the past kind of kept them under control, and I have in the past as well kind of let them go. And this year I thought, they kind of got away from me, and I will just let them go, and I'll just get what I get, and it'll just be a mess. But the control freak in me couldn't quite let that happen, so I did spend some time cutting off some of the lower leaves and stuff and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. I also was looking at my tomatillos. I had grown them previously and I hadn't gotten any fruit, but this year I noticed that not only do I have those little telltale tomatillo sort of outside shells, but I pinched them a little bit and there is fruit in there. And of course I always have some helpers. Are you guys waiting for food? My Marion berries continue to ripen, the few that I have, and I didn't expect to even get anything this year, so I went ahead and picked the couple Marion berries and tried them. Oh yeah. And they're very tart. God. So here, this is the next day in the week. You've seen this shot before. It's kind of rinse and repeat this time of year, as with every time of year. This time of year I've got zucchini, cucumbers, and beans, which are going to town, and this is sort of that area in my garden. So you'll see me out here a lot harvesting, and I have to get out there and harvest daily. These are the kinds of foods that if you don't harvest them daily, they kind of get out of control, versus like onions or potatoes that just kind of hold. So I'm out there quite a bit harvesting them. I did have a very few amount of seedlings that I had in seed trays that I just needed to get in the ground. So here's a couple basil I have. I don't even know if they're going to do anything, but I wanted to put them in the ground versus leave them in the seed tray. And you can see it's hard to film and do that with a single hand, but I got those in the ground and we'll see how they do. But as of right now, my success in getting these things started, germinated, grown up to little seedlings has been very poor. So I just kind of threw what was left in the seed trays in the ground, and we'll call it good for now. They're kind of hard to see there because they're small, but they're in the ground. And then we're at today. So here's a look at the garden and what it looks like. You guys have been seeing me harvesting a bunch of stuff from the zucchini, cucumber, and beans, but this is what it looks like this morning. Here's a look at my corn and my potato row. Potatoes on the left, you can see they pretty much died back, so I'm able to harvest them. And my corn, which has kind of grown out of control this year. And a little close up here on the corn, they've got nice cobs forming on them. And this is something that I think is very early. I feel like I don't normally see these till at least a month from now, so that's exciting. There is that giant beet that has gone to seed that I'm doing that experiment on to see if I can cut that whole thing back and harvest those seeds, as well as some onions off to the right. Here's a look at those beets that I did plant in the ground that I had started in little seedling trays, and I've protected them with those little PVC pipes, and they're growing up. I will soon pull those PVC pipes off. This is a look at my cauliflower row, which looks really horrible because I could not get cauliflower to grow on round 2, so it just sort of is what it is. My lettuces I planted, I'm harvesting them. I didn't get a shot of that, but they're coming in nice. Here's a couple kale and a leftover cabbage, and my strawberry patch, which is sending off tons of little runners at this point in time. Here's a look at my berries on the right, and I've got a couple squash on the left, and then my grapes in the background. And here's a look at my basil, which I harvested in the front, which is refreshing nicely, and then my tomatillos in the background. That's it for this week, and I'll just leave you guys with a shot of some morning glory.